All right, take two. Although you wouldn't even know it because I deleted the first one. Started off a little technical difficulty, but let's try this again and see what happens. Hello, everybody. And say hello when you chime in or when you are here. Gonna give people a second. All right. Hey, Mark, is that you? Are you on this one? Is this the actual one? No, this isn't. This is confusing me. And we're live, okay. Hey, Denise and Bill and Mark. There better not be a fire. But you know what? You're on your way to pick up dinner. What are you getting? Did I already told you last night that food delivery and pickup I was told is low risk by a food safety specialist. Hello, Tiffany. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Denise. You know what? For those of you who have been following my technical problems, I started a stream just a few minutes ago. No green screen or anything. Instantly, there were a ton of dropped frames, so I just bailed from that one before most of you even knew. And I didn't even have to tell you. But also, PETA Jungle sounds good. Also, remember last night, the moon? Remember it has two brightness settings, and we liked it on the second setting. I turned it on today and it totally overexposes. It was really messy. I mean, I can show you if you don't believe me. Hi, Chris Yee, my new friend in Austin, Texas. Yeah, it was looking really weird. And you can even see now, there's a cycling thing happening. Like, do you see, it might be small for you, but I'm looking at it big and it's causing me some grief, but I couldn't have it on the brightness level. It might be because I charged it up today. I think that it connects to a USB charger, and I charged it up, so maybe it was extra bright. I don't know. I could adjust my exposure levels, but I didn't want to change anything else just for the moon, if you understand. Last night's video lighting was perfect. Yeah. It's mostly the same as last night, but I did another Skype interview today. I interviewed a virologist, an expert in viruses today, and it was awesome, and I'm gonna have to work my butt off tomorrow to try to get some of this ready, because I wanna do some editing, and the whole interview was great, and there are a ton of single topic, one question, one answer, short videos that I wanna take out of it, that are she answered all the questions I had. So, hey, Bill Burnett. Tiffany says, so glad to be here. Do you have any suggestions for an eager 13-year-old that loves to learn about space? You know, when I was an eager 13-year-old, I was reading a lot of science fiction, and I have recommendations. And I was reading, back then, I was reading, like, Isaac Asimov, science fiction and nonfiction. He was a great explainer and he's kind of funny. He writes with personality, and most of his stuff is still great to read. Old Isaac Asimov books, but it really depends. Is it a she, did you say? An eager that loves, a boy or a girl? Hello, hello, Natalie. Hello, Natalie. We meet here. And hello, Lauren, and Anthony Gordon, are you out there? Is this true? Do my eyes deceive me? So yeah, I didn't change the so I did a Skype interview today and I used this same setup. I tweaked it a little bit and it was daylight. I have most of the light blocked out from coming in here, but it's a little brighter during the day. But anyway, this is the lighting from yesterday, with very little change. And I don't remember what changes there are. A he. So I was reading some science fiction that has a lot of space and astrophysics stuff in it. There's a guy named Larry Niven. His most famous book is called Ringworld. And I don't know, does he like any science fiction? Because Larry Niven writes about black holes and neutron stars, and these are older books, but they're a lot of fun. So certain writers that really bring a lot of space and astrophysics and stuff about neutron stars and black holes and stuff. And then really depending on, I don't have kids, and I don't really know what level is appropriate for different things, but obviously the internet is full of stuff. I don't know if you're a fan or he's a fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson. He brings space to the people. He calls himself your personal astrophysicist. And there's a lot to learn from his Star Talk Radio. There are a million Neil Tyson videos online to learn about space and other people. You know what? I have a friend, Katie Mack. Now, she doesn't have a ton of videos out, but I'm going to be putting out some interview stuff with her. I feel like I've been sitting on some stuff that I haven't edited, but I want to get some of this virus-related stuff out. But I have a feeling that people don't just want to hear about this topic, that you need a little escapism. So I'll be putting out other kinds of interviews that I have with other people, and she's great. She's a great explainer of things too, and she's very cool. Hey, Jim Hardy, how you doing? Jim, where are you? Are you hunkered down? I was saying yesterday that, maybe I was saying this on Instagram, that maybe we have a messaging problem. Social distancing, quarantine, those are harsh. Just think about it as hunkering down. Here in the South, we just hunkered down for a while. I don't know what you're talking about with quarantines and social distance. Just hunker down for a while. It's not that bad. Thank you so much for the suggestion. You're an Asimov fan and hadn't thought that it was on his level yet. I feel like most of those titles will be in a digital form. Hello, David Atkins. And you're in Maryland, Jim. Raquel, thanks for tuning in. Raquel Perazzo is watching. Is that true? Are you watching? Asimov wrote so clearly. I don't even know if all his stuff is digitally available, but I was reading him at a pretty young age. And I feel like he wrote so clearly that if you like science, you can learn from him. That not all, so much science writing, you get to a point where you're like, I have a question, but it's a book, so you don't have anyone to ask or anyone to answer. But Asimov, that never happened. He could think so linearly that that he could take you to a complex place without losing you. So, but there's so much good stuff on the internet. And like I said, Neil Tyson explains tons of stuff on his videos. So maybe it's the Star Talk account or something, and they put out a variety of stuff. So that's a pretty good resource for explaining science things. What else? I mean, when you say he likes space, what else does he like? Go to YouTube. Oh yes, by the way, you know what? I'm gonna check over there. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Ricardo and Jeff Zweig. How are you? Are you hunkered down in Asia? Can I encourage any of you to go watch this stream on YouTube? I am trying, and to subscribe to me on YouTube, youtube.com/sciencecomedian, because I've got no gigs. I want to build up my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to pay more attention like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go over there and see if on here there's a live chat, and I'm going to try to pay attention to the live chat on YouTube, which I've neglected in the past. But it's the same program simultaneously right now on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, Periscope. But it seems like it looks better on YouTube. Does that encourage you? If you have two devices, have one play the YouTube version over there and stay on Facebook if you need to. But if it makes no difference to you, it's beneficial to me if you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch some videos. If you'll sit and watch these live ones and chat with me over there. Susan says, hey, Brian. And Albert says, we matter. Yes, all platforms matter. Thanks for tuning in, Susan, and I really appreciate it. Maybe I'll neglect my Facebook, but that's where I'm getting the most engagement. But can I lure you over to YouTube? What do I have to dangle? When I streamed, I did a little stream earlier today on Instagram, and I was eating a banana during it. I don't know if that would scare more people away or lure them in. Mark Kaplan, thank you for joining us over here. Natalie, We Energy. Now look, we're gonna take over my streams with YouTube. Albert talking, yes, talk amongst yourselves. That's what this is really about. I want to be able to shut up and you just talk amongst yourselves. Albert, Mark, Albert. Yes, you've all evacuated Facebook. Aaron Freeman, do me a favor. Aaron Freeman, Aaron, will you please go watch on my YouTube channel instead of here where you're watching right now? It's same show. And meanwhile, I will tell you that Aaron Freeman is a really entertaining, sciencey guy like me, who I believe, like me, he's not an actual scientist, but he just loves the science. And he makes videos, Sciencey Optimist, on Facebook. You know, you can open another tab. Well, if you're on a desktop or laptop, Sciencey Optimist, and Jim Short, dude, let me give a shout out to a hilarious comedian, Jim Short, who is tuned in. But really, go over, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and just watch me over there instead. It helps me. I'm trying to build that damn YouTube channel. One thing that helped, and then I'm gonna try to check the comments over there more. Let's get Brian monetized. It would help because, you know, at a certain point, I'm gonna run out of money. I got no gigs. All this is gonna get shut down, but maybe I could monetize YouTube. That's gonna take a while. So let's start now. Help me build it up. Science. And I'll tell you what's coming. Yesterday, I told you that I interviewed a food safety specialist. That stuff's coming soon. Albert, I'm gonna get you that clip first. Maybe one of the most important things I asked him is, since all these restaurants are closing or they can't have dining inside, there's a lot of delivery and takeout, but people are understandably tentative about it. So Ben Chapman is a food safety specialist. He's a professor at NC State, North Carolina State University, and he said that's a low risk. He said that getting delivery is a low risk. You know, being in a room with people breathing is a much higher risk. And I'll tell you about the interview I did today that I'm really anxious to get out. It's with a virologist. She studies viruses. And I asked her every question that I wanted to ask her, and she gave me great answers. I expect to put out a lot of short videos and the whole thing, because it was really good. So she was fantastic. Elizabeth Hayes. Aaron Freeman, there you go. I'm more handsome on YouTube. And coming from you, Aaron, that means a lot. If only I could find a way to appear more handsome to Aaron Freeman in Chicago. Dawn says, hey, Brian, just jumped from a Twitter link to join you here. Thank you. Hi, Dawn. Currently hunkering down in the UK. And Elizabeth Hayes, Jane Hayes. Wait. Oh, Elizabeth Hayes is not Jane. Elizabeth is Elizabeth Erickson. It's so confusing. I feel like one of the reasons it is better here is that it's less likely to go out of sync. Hey, can you guys tell me, is this in sync? Last night, the videos, they all went out of sync. They started out in sync, but later they went out of sync. And it was really funny to see that clap and have it be completely, that looks like good, okay. If I talk long enough, it's probably gonna go out of sync. I don't know if it's just the time or if it has something to, I suspect it has something to do with me. Hey, Mike Krieger. Thanks for tuning in. I've asked people to watch over on YouTube instead of here. Here's how that helps me. Oh wait, I got a, Jim Hardy said evacuated from India. You were in India, but now you're back home in Maryland. Good. The reason YouTube is really beneficial to me. Oh, okay. What confused me there is I know someone who goes by Elizabeth or Jane Hayes, but that's not you. A comedian, an old comedian friend. So YouTube, before you can even begin to monetize it and make any money from it, they have 2 restrictions now. This is relatively recent, over the past year or 2 or something. They instigated this. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. Well, I got that one. I have 2,000 subscribers. I'm not getting any engagement from them, but they're there. That's why I want you to subscribe, because I'll get more engagement from you. But the other thing you need is 4,000 hours of watch time in the previous 365 days. So until you hit that, you can't even apply for monetization. So this past week or 2, my watch time has gone way up, but I'm coming up on 1,000. I'm over 900, but I'm coming up on a quarter of that. But I'm actually encouraged because I wasn't doing shit before this. And, you know, some of you are watching, like last night, I talked for almost 2 hours, and some of you watched for an hour or more. Well, that's a solid hour of watch time from one person. That's getting me partway there. So, and the other thing that's happening is, you know, I made that video that's not funny about precautions, not panicking. And it's getting a lot of views. And even though it's only 2 minutes, my friends at Scientific American, just yesterday, I think, made a little post and shared the video, and I got a spike. So that YouTube video is getting more traffic too. And so if you watch any videos on my channel, it'll help me. So I really appreciate it. Has China conquered the virus and got any coronavirus jokes? I don't really have coronavirus jokes. I guess I could adapt all my salmonella jokes. You know what? As far as, we have to be really careful about this. I saw an infectious disease expert talking about predicting that. So China, because of their safety measures, I don't know what I haven't seen this, but I don't know what the current state is. But new cases have dropped way down. Did they have a day of no cases? Whatever it is, they were very effective. But that doesn't mean that you can relax the measures, because as soon as you let people mingling again, it could potentially spike again. So I wonder what's gonna happen. And I don't know how long we're gonna be hunkered down. Maybe we need a new hashtag. It's not social distancing. It's not quarantine. It's hunkering down. Maybe I could make a joke about that. But I don't know. I'm not the expert, but that's why I like doing the interviews. So interviewing this one, Barbara Sherry, today, she was excellent. She gave me great, concise answers to every question I asked. I just want to post almost every question and answer as an individual video, because they're questions we ask. Like, you know what? Like, I spent some time with some neighbors today and their dogs, and the humans are all keeping a distance, but we want to kind of pet the dogs and get a little dog love. Well, can the virus be transmitted or carried by dogs? As far as we know, it can't be carried by them, but they are a surface, just like our hands, so they can potentially have it on them. So that's a tough one to answer, but it also seems a little lower risk. Unless you're symptomatic and you're coughing and exhaling virus-laden breath on them. None of us are symptomatic, but another important thing to remember is that we don't know this yet. Someone could get exposed and not become symptomatic for 14 days, possibly. There's a lot of uncertainty here. But in those 14 days, we don't yet know how contagious someone might be. So you might not be symptomatic. You might not know you were exposed. You might not have any signs of it. You might be symptomatic. But that might is that we don't know either way. That's important. We're shutting down tomorrow night. When you say we, what do you mean we? Who? And what do you mean shutting down? I'll take another look over on Facebook, but wow. Oh, Dom, join us over on YouTube. Come to my, Dom, we're over on YouTube now. I know you're seeing me here, but I'm not really here. This is just a two-dimensional hologram. I'm over on YouTube. YouTube.com/Science Comedian. Nate Etheridge. Nate, I would be honored if you would join us over on YouTube.com/Science Comedian. I can't say slash. My falsetto's not as good as when I sang on that Queen song. But thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Okay, Orange County, New York. Elizabeth says shutting down, and like, do you know what the specifics are? Mark Kaplan says restaurant person coughs in her arm before handing me my order. Well, at least she didn't cough directly on your food. Yeah, I suppose if you see them coughing, it's suddenly not as low a risk as it seemed a minute ago. I don't know. I'm just a comedian. I'm not a doctor. Don't take my advice. But I will present some interviews where I ask the questions and a legit expert answers them. Dawn, sing more Queen. Well, you heard how good that came out. You know, Queen is not the easiest music to sing. There's certain songs, I've done some Queen at karaoke, like Fat Bottom Girls. My voice is pretty rough. For a time of quarantine and social distancing, I sure have been talking a lot. Have you noticed? Don't answer that. We're 23 minutes in. Tech report, still no dropped frames. Are we in sync? You know what, it's gonna be most useful. It's almost always in sync for the live stream. It's when I look at it later that somehow it's out of sync later. And I don't know why. And mostly on Facebook on the iPhone. Elizabeth says in Orange County, New York, they're gonna be shutting down. Only essential businesses stay open, stay home otherwise. Yep. All right, Albert, good sync. Good sync. So I realized that I should have, like, occasionally done this. And, you know, I could just sync it. I could just clap once or twice, make a harsh noise. But it's useful to see that. When I look at it later, I'll see if it's in sync. And yesterday's was problematic. Susan says Albert doesn't sing at karaoke. He raps. Will he rap? Has he rapped any songs by Rush? I guess Rush went through a period where they had some, was it Roll the Bones or something? I didn't keep up with Rush to that extent. I love the old Rush. But when Rush started rapping, I wasn't listening. Anyway, that's all that I've heard. I did just touch my nose, but I haven't touched anyone else. So don't worry, if I touch my nose, I don't think you can get anything. Wow, so yeah, that's helpful. My viewers have dropped. Hey, Bruce Holzman. Bruce Holzman, we're all abandoning this Facebook stream. Join us over on YouTube.com/Science Comedian. Science Comedian is the account. This very same stream, but it's better. It's potentially better, and we're over there chatting now. Um, I don't want to keep saying that, but it's useful, I think. Because now it's showing that I only have 5 viewers on Facebook. I'm not bragging. And upwards of 12 here on YouTube. Yep, that's right. All I have to do is do a little We Will Rock You to see if we're in sync. So, I don't know. Now the Facebook numbers are rising. Alice Hinman. Hey, Alice, how are you doing? Have you been busy? As a bee. What have you been up to? Are you hunkering down? Alice, you guys, I'm sorry. Each time I want to get all, here, I can get 2 at once. Christopher Height, thanks for tuning in. Let's all abandon this Facebook stream. Meet me over at my YouTube channel. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel. It will be very beneficial to me if you go watch over there, and we're chatting over there too. And we now have more people on YouTube than we do on Facebook, but it's neck and neck. So join me over there. It'll help me one day potentially monetize my YouTube channel. And Alice, have you really been busy? What are you doing? But come join us over here. YouTube has cookies. Impressive multitasking. Oh yes, I'm very impressive. Alice, that I'm talking to is a local friend of mine who is, I don't know how to define her, but she's what's that damn word? She's into bees. Hey, it's Nate. I accepted your YouTube, what's the topic? Nate, I'm glad you commented. You've tuned in a couple times, and I've spoken to you, but you haven't spoken back. Have you seen, I have a Steve Vai treat for you. So, did you see it? Because I played it for you previously. You tuned in and I said, hey, I have something queued up for you. So the topic, this is a free-for-all. We're talking a little about the virus and some interviews. I've been conducting interviews with experts that I'll be posting soon. Okay, Nate. Some of you have seen this already. Thank you. Our numbers have climbed on YouTube. It'll help me. So when I was at Starmus, and I had some good Steve Vai time, I don't think you've seen this, and nobody else has this but me. At the dress rehearsal for the opening ceremony, I hadn't even met him yet, but Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut, played the David Bowie song, A Space Oddity, and Steve Vai joined him, and I only turned on my phone and caught a snippet of this, but the thing I caught is amazing, and I didn't even realize till later, because there was so much happening there. So that's what this is. And then what happened is, during the actual show a few hours later, Steve Vai didn't play on this song. They let Rick Wakeman sort of shine, and Steve had a full other song. So I have something else for you, but here it is. It's not even 30 seconds, but it's a good snippet. It's better than the studio version. So it's the Starmus opening ceremony, but a few hours before, the dress rehearsal. Check this out.
Detach from the station and make us love be with you.
Hell yes! Did you like that? Tell me you appreciated that. I know, I'm the only one, no one else was shooting that, and they recorded the show, but that does not happen in the show. It only happened at the dress rehearsal, and I love that better than the orchestra doing it on the studio version. So Nate, I hope you like that, and you know what? Oh, Darlene, thanks for, and Senator Jaiz, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining over here. Okay, Nate, I got something else for you. How about another little musical break? I'm not gonna play all of it, But here was my first, as you know, I think I told you, Steve Vai was a name to me, but I was not familiar with his music. And at the dress rehearsal, before that moment, he played his song For the Love of God with Rick Wakeman on piano and the Hans Zimmer Orchestra playing. However, I'm close to his amp, so you can't hear the orchestra as well as you can hear Steve. I'll give you a couple minutes of this. I'd be happy to show you more later. I'll post it eventually, but during the show, I was co-hosting, so I knew that I wouldn't be able to shoot. But I heard this song and it sounded great, so I went right up to the front, and here's a little, again, totally exclusive video. You can't get it anywhere else, but right here, I dedicate this to you, Nate Etheridge, For the Love of God. Sorry to cut that off, Nate, but how do you like that? Pretty good. I want to say hi to Rachel and to Craig, and I want to invite you to come over to my YouTube channel to watch this stream, because that would be very beneficial to me, and there's more of us over there now, and there's a live chat, and Albert said you didn't even have to vie for his attention. That's right. So you know what, Nate, that moment right there when I went up, and no, that was really almost my first real exposure to Steve Vai, from just a few feet away, and him doing that. And then there's a part where he plays with his tongue, and he plays some beautiful stuff and some heavy stuff. And I was like, oh. And then, as you know, throughout the rest of the week, he turned out to be a really nice guy. I've also, the other night, I don't have this available to play right now, but the other night I played a couple clips from my interview with him, and I'm gonna get more of those. I haven't posted them, and you know, apologize for that ugly kind of watermark, but I knew that if I was gonna put this on YouTube, I wasn't able to do that. I didn't do it in my editing software. I could have made it sort of translucent, but I just did it in a hurry, and I threw that on there because you put anything on the internet and it's Steve Vai like that, someone's gonna take it. Well, they can take it, but they're gonna have to have my @ScienceComedian on it. Dawn, you're okay. He's the only guitarist that sounds like that. Masterful. Thanks so much for the dedication. He is perhaps the only guitarist that sounds like that. Oh my God. I didn't tell you about my Steve Vai interview. Half of it was us raving about Brian May and Queen. And he is a total fangirl for Brian May. And Brian respects the hell out of him too. I haven't had that conversation, but Steve raves about Brian May. Almost as much as me, if you can believe it. So, yeah. I don't see anyone new tuning. There's still a few people watching over on Facebook, and that's okay. That's your prerogative. I'm just saying, there's more of us chatting over on YouTube, and it just helps me, because I need to build up my watched hours on YouTube. And you know what? When I say it'll help me, it'll like totally help me, but if you're enjoying these at all, and I'm getting the feeling that a handful of you are because you keep coming back, spread the, like, help it go viral. If you would each infect 2 or 3 people with the idea of watching this shit, then I could build up a little audience and we could really do more of it. So, hey, Mike Krieger, thanks for joining us over here, Michael. Say hello to Albert Nurek and Mark Kaplan. Mark might have signed off because he was in the process of picking up food, going to eat. Do you have any questions? What are your questions about the virus that would be specific to a virologist? Now, I should have asked you that last night, and I could have asked her, but I asked her so many questions that I might have the answer from my interview today. Senator Jaiz, I come to watch you fail. Okay, not really. Cheers, bro. Mark Kaplan is back. Mike Krieger. YouTube is the new Facebook. Oh, do we even want it to be that? I'm not even sure we like that. You know what? Now, that's pretty good. I do need to check if you're on Facebook at all. Like, maybe I don't need to check. Do I? Let me do a quick check over at I'm going to 2 different Facebook pages at the same time, and one of them is my science comedian Brian Malow fan page. And yesterday, some people were over there, and look, sure enough, there's a few comments. Kevin Smith. Oh, Elizabeth Erickson, thanks. You came over to YouTube. Kevin Smith, I'm a little Reed Underhill. Reed, join us over on YouTube. I'm not going to be checking the comments over here so much, but come over to my YouTube channel. Reed. We're all on YouTube. All the hip kids are on YouTube. I don't want this fireside chat to only be about that. Come to YouTube. I should just record it and put it on a loop. I could put a title on the screen. I have a feeling I could even do that right now, but I won't mess with it right now. That's too much of a distraction. But Reed, it would be helpful to me if you watch on YouTube instead. And as a bonus to you, it might actually be better quality. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Susan. Thanks for, you went over to YouTube went over to Facebook and told them to get the hell over here. But a few stubborn people are still watching on Facebook. That's okay. But you guys, thank you so much. I wanted to do a shorter one, but now that I have you here, we're really building. So there's 18. If we had 20 of us, every 3 minutes, I would have a watched hour. And I only need 3,000 more watched hours. Is that right? To be able to apply for monetization. That sounds like a lot, but the reality is, like, it's not just these streams, it's all my videos. If you watch any of my YouTube videos, hey Dawn, I don't know if you've scrolled down my YouTube videos, but I have some live clips of a little band called Queen, plus Adam Lambert, from a couple different shows. And 1 or 2 clips are from really close to the stage, kind of like that Steve Vai video, almost. A little farther than that, but I've got a couple pretty good, it's stuff I'm sure you've seen, but I posted just a handful of really nice clips. How was dinner, Mark? Albert wanted to know. Senator Jaiz says that made some confusion. Senator Jaiz, by the way, is a friend of mine who's a local Raleigh musician. He's a friend of mine from my museum days at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. He's a big geek. He's a big music geek. He's really into electronic music and has quite a lot of interesting gear. And Senator, how do you describe what genre and how do you describe your music? But he's got, you can find him on Facebook and other places. In fact, Senator Jaiz, don't be afraid, Aben, to tell them where they can find you. Dawn says it's 2:28 a.m. in the UK. Got to get to bed. Take care, folks. Thanks for that chat, Brian, tonight. Okay, good night. Oh, so maybe you didn't hear me say that. I'll tell you later. Albert, question for a virologist. Do coronavirus infections infer any immunity against future infection? I did ask her that question. I asked her if previously being exposed to it, having it, does it give us any immunity from the future? And if it, and like, why would it? And I imagine that if it does, it's related to how vaccinations work. That was the way I formed the question. And so, and she told me a little bit, we talked about vaccinations in general, and I asked her something about anti-vax people. But the main point there is, we don't know yet. You know, all of this, so here's some interesting stuff. When I was talking to the food safety expert yesterday, he told me something about a paper that just came out like 3 days ago. There is a lot of research happening right now. So like the work towards a vaccine, that's a long process, and there's not much getting around it because you have to go through trials and you have to make sure it's safe for humans before you start giving it to a lot of people. So it is a long process to develop a vaccine, but more people are working on it than usual. Like this is being treated. So all of these problems, the one upside is that a lot of scientists and medical researchers are working on the problem. So there are things we don't know. So the question I failed to ask her was the previous related coronaviruses. Did MERS and SARS, if you got it once and survived, did it confer protection? Now, you'll have to excuse me, we talked a good 90 minutes. And in fact, when we were done, and I turned off the recorders, we were chatting, and I turned them back on, and we talked about a couple other things we had left out. And then when we hung up, I went and did a couple things, and I brought in the mail, and I washed my hands, and suddenly I realized I wanted to ask her something about hand washing, and I got her back on the line, and we did it one more question. So she was fantastic. And then she said, I'm gonna leave this set up, so if you think of another one, you can call me again. But I talked to her for so long, I don't remember all her answers to everything. So she may have addressed that. But as far as this coronavirus that causes the COVID-19 illness, we don't know. We don't have that research yet. So it would be nice if it confers some because of antibodies, but we do not have an answer to that yet. Oh wow. Maybe I can share this. Do you mind if I share this, Albert? I didn't have to say it was you. This is pretty funny. In at least one household, oh, it's gonna be out of focus there. Multiple devices, I'm on the big TV and a couple devices, and there's a cat. I'm sorry, I don't have this on auto. I have the focus. I don't have it set on autofocus. I have it set so that ideally I'm in focus. So that didn't work very well, but that's okay. You don't need to see his living room in high def. Maybe that's not what he wants, but thank you, Albert. Oh, wow. Now, I don't know if just interest has dropped off, but there's only one viewer over on Facebook, and hopefully it's because everybody migrated over to YouTube, and there's at least 16 of us, if these numbers can be trusted. Okay, so Albert, good question, and I asked it, and I'm gonna post that as soon as I can. Dom says, what's that you have playing in the background? Not sure if I like it too much. Maybe it's just a short loop and it repeats too often. Yeah, I mean, we have to find stuff that I have the rights to. You know, I shouldn't play it on these because that music, I want to use it for a specific series of videos. So I like it for this other purpose. Maybe it's not what should be going right now. So my friend Senator Jaiz has offered me some music, and Dom, I don't know what you have in mind, but I am particular about like the feel that I want it to be. Even though you don't like this, it suits this other thing I want to do. So maybe I'll take it off here, but I only want to use music that, I don't want music that will cause YouTube to strip off the audio channel of a video. Will this virus mutate, and if so, how long before COVID-20? Mark, and your gyro and hummus? No offense, no offense, Dom. Your question, will the virus, that's a total unknown. But it does happen. And as you know, so have you been hearing, what have you been hearing as far as the source of this virus? You know it's zoonotic. It came from an animal and it mutated and made the jump into humans. And viruses, they can do that. So sure, I suspect, that's why we have so many variations of the flu, I guess, because it mutates. I'm not sure I asked that very specific question, but it could mutate. She was telling me that we talked about the coronavirus stuff, but sometimes other related things. So for instance, when you get vaccinated for polio, you might think polio is just one thing, but I think there are 3 different strains of the virus that cause polio. And so it's really 3 different viruses that you get vaccinated about. You always think about polio as one, but there's actually 3 separate ones. So yeah, it could totally mutate. Senator Jaiz, ambient and chill. I asked him what kind of music he makes. Maybe new age. I don't think of it as new age exactly, but maybe. I don't know. I'm not good at this. Guitar stuff for the world and a Brian May fanatic as well. Mark, what about mutations and how long till the next virus? Yeah, I think that's pretty unpredictable. Although I know that geneticists, they have some ideas about how often mutations do happen, but the thing is, most mutations are not useful mutations, and in fact, they result in problems for the organism. It's the rare mutation that confers an advantage, and then gets replicated and passed on. So mutations happen all the time. Some probably are just neutral, some are bad, and then occasionally one enables something useful to the organism. And so, I don't know if so some mutation happened that made it able to be hosted in humans. But I don't think that can be predicted very well. So toilet paper hoarding may continue. Yeah, we joked about that, but we didn't really talk about it. Why, of all the things, I'm more concerned about food than toilet paper, even though there's a very direct connection between those two. But if you run out of food, you don't really need as much toilet paper. See, I don't think people are thinking this clearly. My new hashtag is eat less, poop less, right? So if we run into food shortages, you won't need all that toilet paper. That's a different take on it. I haven't heard anyone express that one. I always had this old idea, it's an old joke, that when you buy food, you should just get the amount of toilet paper that you need for the amount of food you're getting. You know what I mean? They could just scan it at the checkout, calculate the volume, and convert that into standard TP units. You pull it fresh off the roll. So if you're buying that much food, you are going to need this much toilet paper. Isn't that logical? I feel like I don't even know if I'm a comedian. I just have logical answers to things. Some things. Here's a question from Senator Jaiz. I was exposed Wednesday before last. I am self-quarantining till Wednesday. I am clear after that, right? Are you serious? How do you know you were exposed? Are you joking or are you serious? Abin, was that for real? Wednesday before last. This is still, I don't think we know these as 100% facts yet, but it seems that you could be exposed and not show symptoms for 14 days. And one of the things they're saying is that when you're looking at, when you're saying so far we've tested and this is how many people have been exposed, you really don't know what the situation is today until 14 days from now. In 2 weeks, a bunch of people might get sick from exposure. So it might turn out that the number of exposed people is much greater. Like, we can't know unless we're testing everybody, and we don't have that. We're not nearly there in the US. Albert Nurek. Hey, it's not dirty, Susan said. What's that? I don't know what that was referring to. Albert Nurek, oak wilt disease videos? What made you, why did you bring that up? Because do you know that when I was in graduate school learning TV production, that we had a course, it was like a corporate video course, where you would make a video for a client. And as part of the class, some people came in and pitched us videos they needed. So they were the clients. And the urban forester of Austin, Texas, back in the last century, said that he needed a video made about oak wilt. It's this disease that has affected live oak trees, if not other kinds. There are many kinds of oak trees, but there's a kind in Texas called a live oak tree that's very common and neat trees. Really fascinating too. And this disease was an epidemic and through parts of Texas. So me and my two partners, we took that one and we made a video about oak wilt. Did you know that? Or did you just randomly say that? Senator Jaiz, I got background for you. Cheers. Mark Kaplan. Okay, first we heard bats, right? But lately, weren't you hearing that the animal the virus came from was a pangolin? I've been hearing a lot of people say that, but my virologist today said, no, it's bats. Same as SARS and MERS, it's bats. And we're not exactly sure why, but bats harbor a lot of viruses. And you know what I said? I said, so besides human health specialists, there's people that work on bats. And so if they could cure bats of the virus, that would help us. And she said, the thing is, bats carry it, but they don't have symptoms that we know about. It doesn't sicken or kill them. So the thing is, actually curing them of the virus might be a problem, because for all we know, sometimes a virus can be beneficial. It can confer some benefits. And we talked about this a little, and I'll let her say the details. But she said, like, that would be risky. Like, the bats might, they live in harmony with this virus. But when it jumps to humans, and it's okay in most places, but when it gets to our lung tissue, it's very problematic. So fascinating that bats carry a lot of viruses, but they're not necessarily susceptible to negative effects by them. And then they've made this jump to humans quite a few times. So bats is where it's coming from. Susan says you still have takeout and it's not dirty. Mark Kaplan, so much like chicken pox and shingles. I don't know enough about that, and I didn't ask her to compare it to that. I'm concerned about that. I had chicken pox when I was a kid, and I don't know what we're supposed to do about that right now. But maybe she's someone I should get her opinion on that for personal use. Corona diet. Nate, regarding toilet paper hoarding, if you're someone who is engaging in buying all of it in the US, what is the point? What advantage do you think you're giving yourself? You're bound to have the cleanest butt in the country. Duh. Why else would they be hoarding it? Because I foresee a trend in the future where mooning, since we can't have actual physical content, I predict a rise in the occurrence of mooning people. And if you're gonna moon someone, you wanna have a clean butt. Hence, stock up on toilet paper. If it's not that, I don't know what the hell it is. Albert, you retracted one of your messages. That makes me very curious. Susan says, my living room, high def isn't going to show dirty. Oh, it's not dirty. Did I say dirty? I just meant private, expose, show people how you live, not your dirty side. But high def isn't going to show dirty. Littered with blankets and sleeping cats, but not dirty. I would never imply that it's dirty, especially compared to me. Albert, you remembered that? Why would anyone even know that? It was in graduate school, and it's not like I put it online back then. There was no online back then, unless you were maybe in the military. Dom, who right here on this chat has been tested? I was sick a couple weeks ago, and the symptoms are consistent with some of the symptoms of this virus. I had a flu shot, but it could have been the flu, because getting a flu shot is not 100% protection against getting the flu. If it was, then I came through it. I had a couple miserable days. It wasn't fun, but I guess it was mild compared to any severe cases. I wasn't close to needing hospitalization, but for 2 or 3 days, it was pretty crappy. And 2 nights were miserable. But has anyone here been tested? I think so far, up until about now, if you didn't show severe symptoms, good luck getting tested. Hopefully that'll change. What about the test puts you in the clear from not getting the virus later? Oh, no, how often do we need to be tested? Okay, so, Dom, this is a good point that another scientist friend, I should have asked her this, but another scientist friend said, we personally don't need to get tested. If you have any symptoms that are cold-like or flu-like symptoms, you should isolate yourself anyway, even before this virus. So if you're symptomatic of anything, you really shouldn't be around people exposed, and we've known that for many years. So the problem is if you're not symptomatic, you normally don't separate yourself from people. But because of the nature of this virus, we're taking these precautions. So the thing is, I personally don't need a test. The government agencies do need to be testing a lot of people to have an understanding of the situation. If we don't test, we really don't know what's happening. And how do you prepare if you don't know? So the government needs that information. They should be testing a lot so they understand the situation. But we as individuals, the test is not going to confer any protection on you. And no, you really don't need to know. Right now, we're just taking precautions. Whether you have symptoms or not, we're separating ourselves from people. So that's what we're doing. We're taking the precautions as if you had it. You don't really need to know if you have it. If you're symptomatic and have problems, maybe you need to be hospitalized and helped. But otherwise, so you understand, the government should have the information, but we personally, I don't think it helps us at all. Right now, we should be isolating anyway. Did I say that enough times to make it clear? Albert says friggin' pangolins, but they're in the clear. Pangolins were getting a bad rap there. Susan, rethinks her bathhouses. Susan, you also retracted. You and Albert are retracting messages. I've not been tested. Here they won't they won't let you unless you're exhibiting the classic symptoms. Mark says get the shingles vaccine. I heard that it could be a miserable experience in itself. What do you know about it, Mark? I know you're not a virologist, but what do you know about it? Jim Hardy knows a little bit more about this stuff. The COVID-19 strain is most similar genetically to a known bat coronavirus, but was likely transmitted to humans through another mammal and not pangolins as an intermediate. Yeah, she may have said that, but she says the source was bats, and she said it pretty confidently. And I don't remember what she said about through another, but Jim, what are you basing that on? I not only like to know what you know, I like to know how you know it. Yeah, I know. So Senator Jaiz, Queen at Wembley is on Coelho now. It's a great concert. Yeah. Queen at Wembley is a great concert. But Aben, have you seen any of the Queen concerts from the 1970s? There are two that they released in recent years. One is really early. One is you can look them up. I'm drawing a blank right now. One is at the Hammersmith Odeon. One is in 1974, and that is their first album came out in 73. Their second and third albums came out in 74, and then Night at the Opera with Bohemian Rhapsody would be 1975. One of the Hammersmith Odeon show is Christmas Eve, 1975. They had just hit it big with Bohemian Rhapsody. The previous album had Killer Queen, but they hit it really big, and it was televised by the BBC. But there's a longer version that they released recently. And oh my God, I mean, they're younger, and Freddie doesn't have the command of like a stadium when a year after their first album, but oh my God, they were so cool. So Wembley is great, and they were a stadium band, and they were pretty strong then, but I have a real soft spot for their 70s shows, and I saw them in 1980 and 1982, and believe me, they were highlights. I was so excited. My friend David Yaffe saw those shows, but they came to Houston twice in 1977. To me, that's almost the perfect time because they did two tours. They came to Houston right after A Day at the Races and Somebody to Love. And then they came back at the end of the year having released News of the World with We Will Rock You and We the Champions. And oh my God. So they weren't playing stadiums yet, but they, or maybe they were, but they did all these shows at the Summit, including 1980 and 82. And in some other countries, they were playing, I don't know when, maybe shortly after that, they started playing really, like after the game, then they were just playing vast stadiums, especially in South America and Europe. But anyway, we're talking about Queen if I didn't get that in there. Oh my God, those shows from 74, 75, 77. Houston 77 was recorded, the show my friend was at. And it hasn't been officially released, but there are copies out there. So you want to see some cool stuff, look up Queen, Houston, 1977, and there are a lot of clips that you can see. The whole thing is available, but you can find clips on YouTube, and oh, wow, it's a great show. I like my Freddie Mercury in leotards and ballet slippers. I like that 1970s Freddie Mercury best of all, more than the mustache and the leather and the arm strap. It's like, believe me, I love that. But my preference is I want my Freddie Mercury in leotards and ballet slippers. That's how I want him. Coronavirus and Queen, back and forth. What else does this guy talk about? Susan says the administration doesn't want us tested. Some can't count that high and don't want to admit that the numbers are beyond their understanding. Yeah. Senator Jaiz, here in Raleigh, the testing is way behind, like thousands tested, but hundreds returned. Really? Yeah, so far we don't have many cases, but there hasn't been much testing. But we haven't had much hospitalizations or anything. I don't know the numbers. Have we had a death in Raleigh or North Carolina? Yeah, I am a true fanboy. I'm not going to deny. Natalie, have I interviewed Brian May? Natalie, are you still there? As a matter of fact, I interviewed him once about 10 years ago for only about 15 minutes, and it could only be about this new book. It was about stereo photography, this other passion of his. I think you know that I'm into that from Instagram. And it's inspired by him. So I had 15 minutes with him. And you know what? that video never saw the light of day. It's complicated, and I don't want to say the reasons why, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share that really soon. And also, I had some, Brian May, I don't know if you know this. I put out a little video about the virus about a week ago, and Brian May saw it on my Instagram and shared it on his Instagram to his 2 million followers. And he said some really nice things about it. And so we exchanged some messages after that. And Albert, I don't know if I updated you. We exchanged, the next day I sent him a thank you email. And he wrote back, and we went a few rounds. And then the day after that, on Instagram, because he posted something, I just said, oh, I thanked him for that. And we had a little bit of a live chat for a few minutes. Private messaging on Instagram. Not for very long, but it was really cool. And I hope I get to interview him sometime soon. It's a possibility, but I don't want to count my chickens until they're recorded. Because that would be amazing. It would have to be, of course I want it to be in person, but it would have to be via Skype. But holy shit. So we'll see. We'll see. Wish me luck on that one. Why are there only 3 likes on this video? Yeah, there's 13 people watching right now. How can there only be 3 likes? You know what? Hey, let's check the sync again. It says no dropped frames. I'm taxing the CPU at 30%. We're already an hour, 7 minutes in. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. Ready? How's this? Okay, ready? What do you think? How's the sync? What do you think? How's the sync? Yeah, how about a few likes? I think it actually helps me if you like the video, but just you tuning in and watching this long on YouTube, I should go check the comments over on, oh, somehow that got paused, but that's fine. I'm just gonna check to see if anyone has commented over on Facebook. But it looks like they haven't, and there's only 2. You're right, Susan, that was a good idea. Like, I need to, now 3. If you're just joining me on Facebook, please come over to my YouTube channel. There's a link in the comments. It's youtube.com/science comedian. It's my Science Comedian YouTube channel. Join me over there, and there's more people commenting. The sync is good. Perfect sync on YouTube. And the sync is right on Facebook too? All right. Senator Jaiz, how do you know what the sync is doing on Facebook? Don't make me come down there. Darlene, the sync is good. I'm watching on YouTube with a Fire Stick. Amazon, the one stock that might survive the apocalypse. No. Purell. Maybe it's Procter & Gamble or somebody. If only, we didn't have to wait for a thing like this. Infectious disease experts have known something like this was going to happen. Now, it could be years off, but who knew that Zoom, that does webinar software, hey, what is Zoom's business model? Because they must have some enterprise version, or what's the paid version? Because I've used Zoom, but I've never paid for it. But Zoom, maybe Skype, maybe anyone in anything in streaming media, social media companies might benefit from this, because we're all doing that. Netflix and Amazon, but Amazon, I mean, you could just imagine their stock is tanking right now. But what happens if a lot of businesses go under? What if a lot of small stores go under, and maybe even some big chain goes under, depending on how this plays out. But Amazon could survive. / Netflix, Hitachi. Why Hitachi specifically? What are they making now? I always thought it was funny. Like I always like Fuji. Like they make great video cassettes and tech. I have a stereo camera by Fuji, and they also make great apples. They're really diversified. You get your electronics and your apples. Netflix, Amazon, Purell, and toilet paper and a magic wand. Now we're talking about something you know about, Albert. Hey, where's this show going? You know, I should have, we've said it enough times that even if you're over on Twitter, if you're watching on, if you happen to be watching over on Periscope, thank you, but I would encourage you to join us over on YouTube. I'm just trying to build up my YouTube channel, so someone is out there watching on Periscope, and you know, I'm not offended if that's your preferred place to be and you're just bouncing around Periscope, but youtube.com/Science Comedian, at least come over and subscribe, say hello. I didn't even want to talk this long, but you guys made me. Maybe we'll wrap up in a minute so that we can do other things. What shows are you binge watching? I think I already said, or maybe it was just on the phone to my sister. I confuse you with my sister sometimes. I just finished the last episode of Better Call Saul that's on Netflix. I think it's the end of 4 seasons. The 5th season is currently airing on television, but I don't have any regular cable or anything. So, you know what I'm gonna have to resume is I'm on the final season of The Expanse. I'm watching season 4 of The Expanse. I've been binging that over the past couple months, and I'm on the final season, and it's now an Amazon production, so I'll catch up to date. Periscope is still a thing. It must be Tom from MySpace. It's actually Jack from Twitter. Twitter owns Periscope, and it's integrated. So if you go to my Twitter channel, which is twitter.com/Science Comedian, you know, I really need to be able to. Eventually, I will use this little device, and maybe when I do that, I could hit it, and we could actually hear Queen go, Flash. Or I'll say Slash, and they can go, You know who wrote the Flash theme song? If you're thinking Freddie Mercury, you're wrong. He sings the hell out of it, but Brian May. Senator Jaiz, just being selfish, the Mitch Hedberg story. I love your relationship. I miss him. Tell a Mitch Hedberg story. Here's one little thing. Mitch didn't like fish. He didn't like the smell of fish. If you opened a can of tuna, he hated it. And he would say, and I think his father told me, he said this from childhood, if it's from the sea, it's not for me. I don't think Mitch ever told me that. I think I only know that from his father. His mother passed away from breast cancer several years ago. After Mitch, unfortunately, she had to. His mother and father were still together, and they're from a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota, called Maplewood. It is so. His mom and dad were awesome. His dad is still alive, but his mom passed away. They both had to endure seeing their son pass away, which is unfortunate. Not seeing it, but having it happen. She died a few years later from breast cancer. She was awesome, and he is too. His father was an architectural draftsman, and I don't know if you've ever seen Mitch's handwriting, but it's like an architect's or architectural draftsman's handwriting. Very interesting, and but his parents and the little suburb he came from, it's so, I don't have the right vocabulary, but Mitch is like a mutation to come out of that place, to come out of that suburban neighborhood and town, and to come out of his parents were just so sweet, and with the little Minnesota accent that's a little bit like the Fargo, North Dakota accents. And they're just wonderful people. He had a couple sisters that I didn't really know, but I knew his parents. And I had something else I was just going to tell you, that he, damn it, I lost it. Minnesota. You know what else? Mitch, you'll notice Mitch didn't have any scatological jokes in his act. He didn't, and you know what? He didn't like fart, like, unlike most boys, he didn't like fart jokes on stage or off. He had no scatological stuff at all. And he didn't like that stuff on stage or off stage. Nate says, recommended for me the graphic novel called Freddie and Me, a young man's autobiography via the lens of his Queen fandom. That's cool. Hey, Nate, I'll come back to Mitch in a second. Here's a Steve Vai thing. Mitch played a little guitar, a little bass. Him and his girlfriend at the time, before he would later marry someone else, after they broke up, they recorded some music. Mitch played a little bass. Somewhere, just like that Steve Vai video, one time at Mitch's apartment in LA, we were all living in LA at the time, and we hung out all the time, and I came over and they were jamming, and I shot Mitch was very photogenic, and I had a lot of fun, and I got closer than I got to Steve Vai, because he was Mitch and my friend, and I shot, like, looking along the length of the guitar, and I don't know, I have vast archives of video on 8mm, high 8, deep mini DV, and now digital on hard drives, on a little flip cam. I have so much. I don't know if I have that. It may even have been Mitch's camera that I was shooting on, in which case I really don't have it. But I gotta go through all my vast archives. There's so much stuff I wanna share that hasn't seen the light of day. And I do have some Mitch stuff, some interview stuff. But Nate, if you're still there, Steve Vai, he told me this, and then I asked him to tell me again when I interviewed him. Brian May was super cool to him, and he once, in the early 70s, when he was with Frank Zappa, but he was nobody, and he wasn't known, and he went to this famous bar, I forget which one, or club, and Brian May was at the bar by himself, so he went and talked to him, and Brian May was so nice to him, and then invited him to a rehearsal the next day. And he went to a rehearsal, and the whole band was there, and then, I feel like I might have told you this story. Then Brian, he saw Brian's homemade guitar, the Red Special, and Brian said, "You want to play it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he played it, Brian's guitar, through Brian's amps, and he said, it didn't really sound like Brian, though. And we talked a little bit about how the tone, the guitar has a lot to do with it, but so much of it is in the fingers and in the mind of the guitarist. So there was some really, thanks for watching, Dom. Appreciate it. So anyway, he had some really, he was influenced by how kind Brian May was. And that influenced how he is towards fans. It had an effect on him, like he took it to heart. And so, again, when they say don't meet your heroes, if your hero is Steve Vai, go ahead and meet him. He's super nice. And if your hero is Brian May, definitely meet him. He's super nice. So maybe we should, guess what? Albert, if you're out there, okay, I got to do a sync test. Now I have 16 dropped frames. Weirdly, in parentheses then, it says 0.0%. That doesn't make sense to me, but I'm afraid. Another sync test. And I'll have to check it later, but I think sometime, maybe these long streams are problematic, but I'm not taxing the CPU. But I don't know if you heard when I first started, I started a stream tonight, and as soon as I started, there were a whole bunch of dropped frames. So I just ended that one. I didn't reboot the machine. I shut the software and relaunched it. And then I went live, and then we did about an hour with no dropped frames, but at some point now I have 16. So the sync is fine? If you've told me the Vi story, I don't recall. Maybe I didn't tell you that. There's more. You'll read the interview with him. Here's one thing that he said. I asked him if guitar was his first instrument, or had he ever like played some drums or piano, and he said, well, is he from New York? Where did he say he was from? Like Brooklyn or New York? He goes, or Queens, or is he from something like that? He goes, oh, being from like blank and Italian, of course I played the accordion. And I go, where's that video? And he said he also played some tuba because the band needed one, or, I think it was a different kind of band. So did you know Steve Vai played a little accordion? And when he told me that, I said, well, Brian May started on ukulele because his father taught him how to play ukulele and then taught him how to play guitar, and then they built an electric guitar together. So it's fine on YouTube. Excellent. Oh, I told you that? I told you that one? Yeah, Albert, 16 frames isn't a lot to drop, but it's half a second. 30 frames a second, 16 frames is half a second. So if we dropped 16 frames, it seems like it could be half a second off. No? We should wrap this up soon anyway. Our numbers have gone down. You hardcore people, I love you and thanks for being here. But we've lost some. We're down to maybe 10. I don't even know if you can trust these numbers, because I've done a live stream on Facebook before, and it's like shows that 2 or 3 people are watching, but then, and it shows me some people appearing as they enter. But then when I've ended the stream, it said there were like 150 views. But I never saw more than 1 or 2 as a number, and I only saw a few people, Albert is watching. But, so it's very confusing. Frame drops may be intentional to resync. I don't know, it's all very mysterious to me. But I'm gonna test this other piece of software. I can test it for 2 weeks, but it'll have a watermark. If I decide to purchase it, it's a subscription model, so I'll have to start paying for it. This one is free. But if by any chance it works better, the other advantage, that one is tightly integrated with Skype. So it might make it really easy for me to do live streams and bring in a live interview via Skype. And I would love to be able to do that. So we could have like some interaction like this, then I could have a Skype interview, we could take questions from the audience, and I could have other segments. So I'm gearing up towards something like that. Jim Hardy, I'm listening, multitasking. Fair enough. I'm multitasking and I'm on camera. Seriously, we need a jazz improv. Like, yeah. Natalie signing off. This has been fun. Thank you. Yeah, Albert. So this same company already makes a piece of software that I use to record my Skype calls. And it's called Call Recorder. I feel like it was 20 or 30 bucks. I bought it years ago. It shows up like it's a plugin. It becomes part of Skype. And I use it to record my Skype calls. And it's been pretty successful. I haven't had a disaster with it yet. And there's certain advantages. I like it. I don't know how many other ways there are to record them, but this one has certain great advantages. So no surprise that when they made this live streaming software, that it also integrates with Skype. The real question is whether my laptop will be powerful enough to run the mixing software, including a green screen if I use it, and a Skype call. There's a chance that my laptop can't handle that. And then I'll need a Patreon to raise about 10 grand or 15 grand to get a beefy Mac desktop. Or much less money for a PC. But you know, I don't know if you heard me laughing about this. I don't even know how to use a PC anymore. You get to a PC, and I know that most of it is probably the same, but when you start up, you're like, okay, how do I start? How do I pull up Windows and start navigating to something? But I guess I could learn, because I don't know if I can afford a really beefy Mac. Nate says, I remember Steve Vai claiming he played accordion during the Roth years, but took it as a joke. He was totally serious. He said it was like, of course, because he's Italian and from wherever. You know, it's funny. When I was at that Starmus Festival last summer where I met Steve Vai, I told my friend Nate, we talk about music a lot, and I gathered he liked Steve Vai, so I told him that I'd met Steve Vai, and so at some point on Facebook, he sent me a picture of himself with Steve Vai, having met him once many years ago. And when he sent me it, do you know that scene in Annie Hall, which is one of my two favorite movies, Blade Runner maybe and Annie Hall. Annie Hall is such a good drama and comedy. So much comedic devices, it's so funny. And there's this part where he gets into an argument with a guy about the work of Marshall McLuhan, and the guy, he goes, you don't know anything about Marshall McLuhan. And the guy goes, oh yeah? I happen to teach a course at NYU about da-da-da-da in the media, and I think I have a lot of insight into Marshall McLuhan's work. And then Woody Allen walks over to a movie stand-up sign, and from behind it, he pulls out the living, breathing Marshall McLuhan, and he goes, oh yeah? Well, I happen to have Marshall McLuhan right here. And Marshall McLuhan says to this guy, you know nothing of my work. How you got to teach a class in anything is beyond me. Something like that. And then Woody Allen looks at the camera and says, if only life were like this. Well, I only realized it later, but I essentially did that to my friend Nate, because he sends me a picture with him and Steve Vai, and when I received it, I was in this lobby bar with Steve Vai. So he goes, I have a picture of Steve Vai right here. Oh yeah? Well, I happen to have Steve Vai here. And I showed him the picture that Nate sent me. And yeah, we had a little exchange there. And it was pretty hilarious to me. Oh, I'm getting a phone call, but I have to decline it right now because I'm busy. Let's take a quick look over it. If you're watching on Twitter or Periscope, I thank you. I'd ask you to come over to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're watching on Facebook, same thing. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and join us over there. I don't know if anyone is watching over there. I think we succeeded. So, hey, let's call this a night, huh? We're coming up on 90 minutes. We dropped 16 frames. I got to go find those. So, Albert, Senator Jaiz could be your house band. Like Doc Severinsen, but a flashier dresser. Senator Jaiz says, Blade Runner and Annie Hall, no wonder we're friends. How did it take so long? Yeah, I think, those are such different movies, but they're right there. Blade Runner, it's right up there. These are probably the two movies I've seen the most times. Maybe Star Wars is up there with how many repeat viewings, and I love Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. I'm sure I've seen the first Star Wars even more times. But Blade Runner and Annie Hall, I know those scripts really well. I know them really well, but I still find them really enjoyable. I can watch Annie Hall again. And what if that was Brian May calling you, that is? Well, the thing is, I could see who it was, and it was not Brian May. It was a friend of mine, and I do need to talk to him, but I don't need to talk to him right now during this. Yeah, if that was Brian May calling me, I'd be curious how he got my... Well, actually, when I emailed him, it's possible my phone number was in my signature. I may have pulled it out. Like sometimes when I'm writing to someone, I pull out my signature. The thing is, if I write from my phone, I don't have that ability. When I write using the Gmail app, when I send an email, it doesn't show me the signature, but it does append it. And I don't even know if there's a way. If I'm on the desktop, you see the whole signature bit and you can just delete it before you send. And there's been times I've sent an email from my phone and I kind of wanted to strip it out, but I don't know how to do that. So anyway, maybe he has my phone number, but he's not calling me. And I'm sad about it. Thank you for bringing that up. That's some of my deepest sadness, Susan. But if he was calling, I would totally have answered it. And I either would have let you just stay there, or I would have said, bye, I have to go talk to Brian May. And you would understand, although you'd want to hear even just my side of the conversation, I'm sure. All right, so you guys are awesome. How many Annie Hall viewings do you estimate? You know, I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even imagine. I'm terrible at this sort of thing. But I've been watching it for years. I mean, if I say more than 10, that probably doesn't even sound like much. But I've just never kept track of it, but it's definitely more than 10. That's even crazy. Because that movie I've been watching for, I don't know how many years. This is how bad, I don't know how many years I've been watching that. It came out in the mid-70s, 77-ish, but I don't think, I probably didn't know it that long ago. I didn't grow up knowing that Woody Allen stuff. I came to it a little later. I can't imagine. I could say 15 or 20, but I'm like, really, I'm just totally guessing. I just know I've seen it a lot, and it doesn't hold many surprises for me. I'll tell you something about it. If you think you know that movie well, do you know this? Well, you probably know, I mean, you do know that there's a very young Jeff Goldblum in it. I don't remember if it's his first film. Same with Christopher Walken, classic scene. Do you know, and this isn't the big thing that you might not know. I've got a production thing. You know, at the very end of Annie Hall, when he says that he bumped into her at a movie, and you see, it's a really wide shot, and you see two little couples, and it's Woody Allen and a woman. I mean, you can't even tell. It's Woody Allen and a woman and Diane Keaton and a man, and it's all about the voiceover saying how he bumped into her, and then they sat and had coffee or something and chatted and caught up. It's a really sweet ending. The woman that is Woody Allen's date, Sigourney Weaver. There's no way you would be able to tell because, I mean, she's like this big, but it's Sigourney Weaver. But here's something. A lot of the scenes in Annie Hall are single shots with no edits. And they're very different scenes where the camera does very different camera work, but there's at least 3 scenes. The lobster scene where they're in, and you know what? Since that scene happens a second time, I don't know about the second time. Remember, there's this funny lobster scene with him and Annie Hall. That whole scene in a kitchen and is a no edit, single shot. And the camera moves around a lot. I'm gonna have to check now. Later, he tries to recreate that scene on a first date and it doesn't go well. That one's really short. I imagine that might be a single shot, but it might not be. So you know the scene where he's walking with his pal, who's always calling him Max, Tony Roberts? They're walking down the street and Woody Allen is saying all these people that are being anti-Semitic. He goes, Jew eat? I heard what he said. He didn't say, did you eat? He said, Jew eat. I heard that. And then I'm in this store and this guy's like, says there's a sale on Wagner, Max. And so he's saying all that. That scene, single shot, it starts as a street scene. And you don't even see Woody Allen and Tony Roberts. They're way down the sidewalk. And like other people are walking by and there's sounds and you just hear them. And then eventually you see them and here they come. They're walking into the shot, and then when they get there, then the camera goes with them and keeps walking, and then I think at a certain point, they walk out of it. Single shot. Totally different from the other one. But the most elaborate one is this scene where he's in bed with Carol Kane, and he breaks away from making out, and he's obsessing about the Kennedy assassination. Watch that scene, because it is very elaborate. There's no edits. There's a lot of camera movement. He gets out of bed, the camera follows him over here to this other side of the room, and then she's still in bed. Then she comes around and she enters the shot over here, and then the camera follows her back around there. And then at some point she says, "You're just using this as an excuse not to have sex with me." And he's still back over there. The camera swings over to him, and he looks in, and he's like, "Oh my God, is she right? What happened?" She was, like Alison Porchnick. Like, she was beautiful and smart, and is it the old joke that I don't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member? So that scene, it's kind of brilliant. The camera work is the blocking, the planning of it, no edits, one shot. So there you go. So I don't know, Nate, how many viewings do you have of any movie? Even though we're gonna wrap this up, stick it in there. I'm curious, like, do you know any movies that you've seen any particular number of times? Aben? And you do the Brian May dance again. I play the Brian May gear and still sound like Senator Jaiz, LOL, yeah. There's something, Aben and Nate or Susan, Albert, Brian May said in an email that Instagram is the only outlet he has because he's taking the social isolation very seriously. So he's been doing a lot of Instagram stuff, and including posting some videos where he plays guitar. And the one today is just great. It's just about 1 minute and 15 seconds, but this one, others he talks a lot. Last night, there's another, like, if you look under Instagram video, there's a long one where he shows people how to play the Bohemian Rhapsody solo, and he talks through it, and then he plays it like half speed. And then he answers a question about what gear he's using at home, because he can't get to the studio right now. And he shows off his gear. Aben, it was an Instagram TV post from yesterday. It's so good. Or maybe today. It was a story last night, but it's there somewhere on his page, and you'll like it because you can see all his gear, which isn't much. But it's so cool to see him talk about gear. But today he just said, I don't feel like I have no words except for these, and he shows the words that are on his shirt, and it's something to do with the New Horizons space mission. And he just plays a little guitar for a minute, and I love that. I posted, I said, this is the content the internet was made for. So, dude, sweet, you got this. Annie Hall, yes. I don't know about movies, but I've seen the entire series of Mad Men 21 times. Susan, no, you have not. I've only seen the first episode of Mad Men once, and I liked it, but I just never watched anymore. But then I watched The Handmaid's Tale, and I like the actress, whose name escapes me. I do like her. And do you know that she was on the West Wing? She was the president's daughter. She was Zoe or something. She was a little kid on the West Wing. She was President Martin Sheen's daughter. Darlene, now I have to watch Annie Hall tonight. It'll be a break for me from watching Bohemian Rhapsody. I've watched that movie close to 150 times. No joke. But 100, really? Has it even been out long enough for you to see it 150 times? You know what? I bought it because I wanted it and all the extras on it, and I haven't watched the DVD. So I haven't seen the deleted scenes, the extras. So does that surprise you? But I do have it, and I will watch it. But the whole series, 21 times is a lot. I remember my friend, a comedian in San Francisco, Joe Klosick, was a huge Star Wars fan. And 10 or 15 years ago, he knew the number of times he had seen Star Wars, and it was 100 and something. Maybe more towards 150. And he knew how many times. He kept track. I don't know. For all I know, I've seen Annie Hall 30 times. It's been so many years, and I've made other people watch it. I've watched it with other people, and I've watched it again by myself. I don't have a clue. 10 is probably way off. I don't know. But Annie Hall and Blade Runner, I've probably seen more, and Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And you know what movie I really like? Do you guys like John Cusack? I like him. Grosse Point Blank. It's him and Minnie Driver, and it's great. He's a hitman who, and Dan Aykroyd is in it, and he's another hitman, and he goes back to a high school reunion, and I like John Cusack, and I love that movie, and it was on the other day, and I caught part of it. Yes. Albert's watched Roadhouse dozens of times. Nate favorites Peel 'em Apart in Layers. Elizabeth Moss, yeah, she's, boy, if you, have you watched The Handmaid's Tale? The thing about great actors and actresses, they can express so much, even without words. She can really express that defiance. There's so many times in that show where she just has to bite her tongue. She can't say anything, but she's got a look. She can express a lot. So, I was so fascinated with her in The Handmaid's Tale that I looked her up on Wikipedia. And here was a sentence that I've never heard said about anyone. And it was just like, well, it's interesting for several reasons. It said that she was raised as a Scientologist. Isn't that bizarre? Like, that's not even a phrase that you could have heard too many years ago. People became Scientologists, but people being raised as a Scientologist? I don't know if she still is. I don't remember that, or if it even said it, but that's kind of weird, huh? There is something weird about those couple actors, Tom Cruise and John Travolta, and her. They're good actors. I mean, I don't know what you think of Travolta and Tom Cruise, and maybe Tom Cruise. Travolta's played a lot of different kinds of roles, from Vinnie Barbarino, right, to the movie I mentioned last night, Blowout, that I loved. Maybe they don't have incredible range. Tom Cruise, maybe not. Maybe that's arguable, but they're very intense, and they are watchable playing themselves, if that's what it is. So, I mean, it's not like they're my favorite actors, but I do find there's something. She's really good, though. They have a certain, he's a movie star, maybe more than an actor, Albert, yes. She did a couple of episodes of L&E, Law and Order? L&E, Laverne and Early? L&E. He's great at playing Tom Cruise. Haven't seen that. No Hulu. Do you subscribe to Spotify? Because one day I got a notice that because of my Spotify subscription, I now have a subscription to Hulu. So I can watch. I might be able to help you anyway, if you want to watch that. It's a toss-up. Darlene says between that movie and Oliver Stone's movie about the Doors. I probably only saw the Doors movie once and parts of it again, but I did like it. I liked some Oliver Stone. She did a couple episodes of, Law and Order. Okay, so it was, it was Law and Order. Okay. It's not L&E, it's L&O. Okay. I never did come back with those Mitch. I had some Mitch thing for a minute, and I couldn't remember what it was, but Aben, I'll tell you some Mitch stuff later. My friend keeps telling me to watch Handmaid's Tale. I just can't get into it. I don't watch movies too much. I mainly watch more documentaries and concerts, unless it's Bohemian Rhapsody or Oliver Stone. Albert, I don't have CBS, so I only saw the first episode of Picard. I would be interested in seeing that. Darlene, Handmaid's Tale, it's a little dark and disturbing, but she's fantastic, and it's good. I like it. It's not a happy show. We are still at, let me do one more test and then let's wrap up. We're still at 16 dropped frames. Tell me how the sync looks and then we'll say goodnight. But you guys have been awesome. And we're at an hour 45, so I think we fulfilled our contractual obligation. All right, perfect sync on YouTube. The real test will be, you know what, last night? This software, in addition to sending out these, it's sending out one stream to a company that's sending it out to the multiple platforms. So this software is sending out the one stream, and it also, it records a local copy that doesn't go streaming. Last night, the local copy was out of sync. I'm in tech hell. The local copy was out of sync. On the flip side, okay, name a movie you walked out of or didn't finish. One time, I don't think I've ever walked out of a movie theater, but watching at home, there was this movie called Liquid Sky, and I didn't finish that. And it might be cool and trippy, but not in the headspace I was in. I don't remember much of it, but I found it disturbing. I mean, now in the age of Netflix and Amazon, I think I've started a lot of things and just checked them out for a minute and didn't get into them. Oh. Something is happening that I've never seen before. Let me test something. Something, let me take a picture. Something is highlighted on the screen and I don't know what it means. Sorry, but I didn't want that to go away. I do not know what that means. And it's if I change sources, it didn't make a difference. So anyway, you guys have been awesome. Let me see your last comments. Top of the Lake was good. I don't know what that is. Have you ever watched Baby Driver? Only reason I watched it was because Queen music is in it, but it's great. You're still in sync. When I watched it, I didn't realize. I just knew that director, do you know he directed these other movies with, who's the guy? The young English actor that he plays Scotty in the J.J. Abrams reboot of Star Trek. You know, Shaun of the Dead and these other movies. Same director, Shaun. Did you ever see, Darlene, have you seen Shaun of the Dead? Because it also has some Queen music. This director likes Queen. He's used twice Queen appears in Shaun of the Dead. Make sure you watch to the end. And that's a really fun zombie movie, and it's funny. And then Baby Driver, I just watched it because I like that director and I wanted to see it. And I was very surprised. Albert, if you haven't seen it, good night. Albert, but Top of the Lake is more Elizabeth Moss. Oh, is that the new one? Susan, when I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind. Top of the Lake. What, Susan, what is that? But thank you, everybody. This has been really fun. I still only have 16 frames. I don't know why that weird something is highlighted on the screen. I don't know what that means. But you guys are awesome. Don't know if anyone's over on... Anyone I need to say goodbye to over on Facebook. But thanks. I'm gonna find a better way to monitor these. That other piece of software has a different system for monitoring the comments. Oh yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Good Omens. I think that in a trailer I haven't seen it, but I think I saw there was some Queen music, Under Pressure or something in the trailer. Oh, Shaun of the Dead is a fun movie. And, yes, there's a big music sequence somewhere in the middle, and then there's a little thing at the end that's pretty fun. So, thank you all. I really appreciate it. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Hunker down. We're not under quarantine. We're just hunkered down. Thanks for joining this fireside chat. I'm really saying goodnight now. See you soon.